All right. Well, today I wanted to talk about what I learned about my genetic limit after running in a Norwegian Ruck March. So, my buddy who's in the army reached out to me. He asked me if I was up for doing an 18-mile Norwegian Ruck March. I do a lot of hiking in my free time, so I felt like I was in fairly decent shape, and I agreed to it. He lives a few hours away from me, and I don't get to see him too often, so I really didn't want to do it. Definitely wasn't super excited about it, but I figured I would give it a try. I'd never done one before, and I read online that they were absolutely treacherous, so I kind of regretted it at first. So we have to wake up super early for this march, and we drive to this army base where the Ruck March is happening. This was at like 5 a.m. in the morning. It was like super, super early. I'm definitely not used to waking up that early, to say the least. The first thing I noticed is how many in-shape people there are in the army. Maybe it was just the base we were at, but there were a lot of hardcore looking people. Like, there were a lot of tall people competing this as well. Like, I saw at least close to 10 guys that were well over 6'5". Like, you have to carry a 25-pound bag on your back as well. And I can say this was absolutely freaking brutal. If you've never put a 25-pound bag on your back, like, for the first time, it feels like a huge, I mean, literally it is, it is a huge weight on your back. But it feels extremely brutal. Like, your shoulders, your back, it's just absolutely torturous. So the first 6 miles of this were not too bad. The temperature was pretty cool that morning and it was still dark out. I was running for about 60 seconds, and then I would walk for 60 seconds, and then walking whenever I got to the top of a hill. I thought that I was in decent running shape, but I was like brutally wrong. Towards the 3 mile mark, there were some guys that were just booking it past me, and I was like absolutely trying to give it my all. When I was running the 60-second intervals, I would try to, sprint for like, a little bit. I'd try to run at a fairly decent pace. And I just watched as at least 10 guys passed me just like effortlessly. Like, I would try and make it my goal to catch up to one of them. And I would really try to push myself there too, but they were just too fast for me. That's what it came down to. After about the 6 mile mark, I was like really starting to feel it. And I hike every Saturday for about an hour and a half and just realized that my endurance just isn't that great compared to a lot of these people. My buddy and I would do our best to try and run for 60 seconds and then walk for 120 seconds. But my endurance was just starting to really wane, and I was starting to really, really breathe heavy. More people were starting to pass me effortlessly while I was just busting my ass trying to maintain a decent pace. And as we got closer to like the halfway point of the race, like, I was starting to notice like army medic stations where people were just like stopping and gassing out. Like, there was this one guy that had to be carted off and taken out. I tried my absolute best to maintain a decent pace, but my feet were just starting to get destroyed and I was starting to get really dizzy as well. Like, I made sure I wear the right proper boots, the right socks. I kind of prepared for this for a while. It was interesting. There was a water station every half mile or so, and I would take some water and then try to head on, but I was just completely and utterly gassed. Like, some people would just, take the water and just run on like it was nothing, but like, I was dying. I was breathing like really, really heavy. By mile 12, I felt like I could barely walk. Like, I was literally like limping, and every single foot that I walked felt like absolute torture, to put it lightly. And there was this guy that ran past that was screaming out, "Come on, guys, keep it moving. You got this. Don't give in. Who's going to carry the boats?" It was like, while he zipped past everyone with ease. Like, and this honestly kind of pissed me off. Like, I was trying to give it literally all I freaking had, and this jackass just like runs by with ease. And I think he was definitely like a David Goggins wannabe. Like, I like David Goggins. Like, I think he motivates people, and I think overall he's like a positive person. But there are like so many guys who try to act super alpha and try to imitate David Goggins that it's just like, dude, you're never going to be David Goggins. There's never going to be another David Goggins. And it's just cringy when guys act like this. After another mile down the road, I had to stop to take a piss. I took off my 25-pound ruck, and I like immediately dropped down and fell over. Like I wasn't even trying to do this, but like my feet just like gave out. I was like super exhausted at this point, and then I can tell you, putting that 25-pound, ruck back on was like way more awful than Jada Smith sending letters to Tupac. About another mile later, there was a medic cart, and I asked the guy how much longer. The guy said, "You only got 4 miles to go. Don't be a quitter." And I'm like thinking, like, dude, you're not even competing in this race. Like, I definitely respect people in the military, but I've definitely noticed that there's a lot of jackasses. Like, I really feel like in the U.S. Army, I know a decent amount of people in the U.S. Army, and some of them are good guys, good people, but there's a lot of like, it's like full of like alpha male bro culture. That's something I noticed that day. Every step was pure torture at this point, and I really, really tried to push through. And I noticed that at this point, like literally everyone was passing me. My buddy had passed me. He was like way ahead. It just seemed like these people were just passing me effortlessly. Whereas like my foot was literally feeling like it was going to fall off at any second. And I was like breathing so heavy, it felt like I was like hyperventilating. I saw a few more people getting carted off from the march. This is like one guy looked like he hurt his leg, and another guy just couldn't walk anymore. I finally made it to the home stretch and ended up finishing the march. And it definitely felt good to finish. It felt like relieving because I honestly felt like I was going to like literally die. And as I was sitting there on the grass, I just kind of came to the realization that, most of the people that finished this race were just like walking around like it was nothing. And these were all people that like had finished before me, and a lot of those people they had like a food truck there, and a lot of them were just like standing around in groups and talking and kind of joking around, and I was just like dying. Like I was sitting there in the grass. I couldn't freaking move. My breathing was still like really, really heavy. I was like, it was just like, I was like so physically exhausted. I wasn't even able to move while these people were just like walking around like it was Christmas. And this made me realize that you can definitely work hard in life, and hard work can get you to a certain point, but you always have a genetic limit, especially when it comes to like athleticism, endurance, running, jumping, weightlifting, or really anything physical. I hate to say it, but it's true. And the same thing goes with your looks. Same thing goes with your height. You have a genetic limit. You can definitely improve, but you're always going to have a limit. I think more people in society need to recognize that. I think nowadays there's a culture of, motivational speakers like Tony Robbins and, David Goggins and Gary Vee. And I think, those motivational speakers, they serve a role. And I think overall they're positive, but I don't think many people like recognize that you have genetic limits and you can't just push past them all. You can push past some of them, and you'll get better at something, but you're never going to be, at the top of the heap if you don't have the genetics for it. Just the way it is. It was like, no matter how hard I tried to keep up with the people in the race, it just wasn't possible, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. Some people are just gifted with endurance. Some people are gifted with running and athleticism. And no matter how hard you work, you will have a genetic limit that will stop you from obtaining or reaching a certain level of fitness. It sounds depressing, but it's really true. Hard work can definitely help, but you're limited in your abilities by your genetics, and that's something we all need to accept. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. Feel free to comment down below any genetic limit you've noticed in yourself, and feel free to subscribe. Until next time, take care.